stay busy. 7 months for Lisa LaFlamme. The veteran broadcaster has been working on a new mini docu-series highlighting the fight for women's rights in Africa. And we are honored to have Lisa LaFlamme join us alongside Executive Director of Journalists for Human Rights, Rachel Pulfer. First of all, thank you both for joining us here today.
It's great to be in a newsroom. I have to say the energy here is really contagious, so it's wonderful to be here.
So tell us what you've been working on now. This is a very important project, and I know it's near and dear to your heart of progressing journalistic rights, not only for women, but women, of course, in Africa.
It's been fascinating, actually. Just for me, it was Tunisia and Kenya, and really looking at how journalism, which is something we've always known, but we don't really talk about it that much. How has journalism changed lives? How does it promote democracy, promote human rights, protect human rights? So this was an opportunity really to see from the ground up just what the relationship between journalism and civil society is in things like, for example, we were looking at footage here of a newsroom. There was a very dynamic morning show there also in Kenya, and just the challenges that they face. And it was through Journalists for Human Rights that they came up with a policy that is to tackle issues of sexual harassment against women in newsrooms, where they are seeing women leave in droves in that country because of the harassment the women face. And I mean, there's just, I could take up the whole show this morning just talking about these experiences that I had there. To tell these stories meant so much to me.
And you know, Rachel, maybe to talk to you a little bit about this as the executive director of this particular organization, Journalists for Human Rights. There were many stunning moments in the docu-series. By the way, I watched all the episodes. It is well worth a watch. We'll tell you how to get to that in just a bit. Where a journalist in Kenya who wanted to get her story approved, the editor said yes, and then we go, okay, that's great, but only if she had sex with him. So when you're sourcing out these stories and we're looking for the content, let's just face it, you didn't have to look far. These are very, stories that are happening.
Very powerful stories, yes, absolutely. No, it's an endemic problem in Kenyan newsrooms, as it was, and to some extent still is, in Canadian newsrooms. And so our insight was we need to work with Kenyan newsrooms, Kenyan journalists, management on a sexual harassment policy that could protect women and ensure that they could do their work without fear of being required to do something disgusting in order to be able to do a really good story. And the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation really took this on and ran with it. And since they took on the policy, they have had 2 prosecutions that has sent an important precedent across the sector that women are to be left alone to do their work.
You know, Lisa, we were talking a bit of this off camera, and I mean, without question, some of this still exists in North American news media, but we have more safeguards in place. You know, with over 200 media organizations in Kenya, with very few women in charge, it's men that are deciding whether, the complaints get properly heard, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's the frustrating part. There's also, sadly, a fatigue has set in for this policy for some of the newsrooms that had adopted it. So it just proves once again that you can't take your eye off the ball. I mean, these women they were so dynamic, and yes, some of them so deflated, who had to leave their TV dream jobs, if you will. But that didn't put them out to pasture, so to speak. What it did was encourage them to find ways of championing better newsrooms through different ways, and through Journalists for Human Rights. We just saw incredible strength. I mean, these pieces for me were at times heartbreaking, but always inspiring.
Yeah, I want to hear, we've got actually a clip from the mini docu-series. Let's hear from Rachel Mbaka.
That moment when it happened to me, the feeling, aside from fear, disgust, and confusion, was anger. I was angry, not just at myself, but at this person.
Mbaka tried to tell.
Isn't it that, interesting, angry at myself? Like, my initial thing is angry at so many other things. Why do you think she was angry at herself?
I think that there has always been, through tragically history, women seem to blame themselves. Yep. What did I do? She has an incredible story. She had a baby. She went back to work. 3 months later, and she said, as any woman who's ever had a baby, your clothes don't fit the way they did before. And she goes back in her newsroom and becomes a target of all of the men who are making incredibly lewd comments about her body based on having just had a baby. Exactly. It just really is disturbing. She said to herself, these are my clothes. Is it something about the clothes I'm wearing that people are interpreting my actions in the wrong way? So I think that's what she means when she says I was angry at myself, also because at the moment she didn't speak up for herself. She did ultimately, and then she was ultimately shown the door. So that speaks volume also.
Yeah, I mean, Rachel, for to even find people, I'm sure, that would speak up. I want to tap on to the school that helps. And by the way, 100% covered by donations. Yep. And I'm hoping you're going to tell us there's a way to help people, because $400 to be able to help teenage mothers actually, can I say, feel like they're human, because they're not really treated like they're human.
They're outcasts.
So we worked with a journalist at the Nation newspaper. There has been an epidemic of teen pregnancy that accompanied lockdowns in Kenya, and we wanted to figure out a way to tell that story and platform some of these incredibly vulnerable women in a way that would actually help them. And the journalist focused on this school run by this amazing woman named Purity Gikunda, and how, teen mothers in Kenya, as in Canada, there's a stigma. And it's very hard for them to continue their schooling for a number of reasons, not the least being the attitude of the teachers towards girls in this situation. And so she set up a school for teen mothers that provides with these girls with all the support that they need in order to be able to continue their schooling. And also girls like Serafina, the girl that Lisa profiles in the story. She found out about this school through the media coverage, because once one story came out, a whole bunch of others came out spotlighting that there was this resource. Now, it's not enough. Purity School needs support, and there is a way to support the school, and we will send the link. But it's also that the media was able to show that this was a systemic problem that required a systemic solution. And so we are hopeful that we will see action from local government, as we saw on the issue of women being attacked in domestic violence. And the government stepped in to provide funding for shelters in that instance.
Well, I just want to add, these girls are victims. They are victims of rape and abuse. And Serafina was a top of her class, and then she is completely shunned. Just one of so many, and their stories are inspiring. And there they are with their babies. So these are children having children. It was really just such a powerful thing. And Purity, what a perfect name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Purity for someone who's doing such good in the world.
Yeah, to be stigmatized through no fault of their own. And I mean, we've just barely touched on the topics. And again, all of the work of Journalists for Human Rights. You'll also learn how journalism played a role in the country, helping women, who are suffering through domestic violence. It's such an important organization. I wish we had more time. Thank you so much, Lisa and Rachel.
For more information on the school and also on Lisa's work, you can go to jhr.ca or our YouTube channel, Journalists for Human Rights. All the docs are there, so they can be seen there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to both of you. Important work being done, Journalists for Human Rights. Again, check out the YouTube channel and, of course, the website for Journalists for Human Rights. We'll talk to you soon, and we will be right back. Stay with us. You are watching Breakfast Television.